This is why you died.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to This Is Why You Died, a horror podcast where we evaluate movies of the morbidness persuasion that we have chosen from prompts that we draw out of our little receptacles, and then we ruminate over them for your listening pleasure. As always, I am Sir Ian Dangerous, and to my northeast, in, I believe, the hinterlands of Burbank, comes RyanRossLIVE. Am I correct in that, Ryan? Are you in Burbank right now?
I'm a little north of Van Nuys, but you're close. You're at the right
close enough.
ballpark.
And from my northwest, in the grim expanse of North Hollywood, Dan, Marcha Madness. How are you guys tonight?
I'm more north than North Hollywood.
He's west of
North
me.
Hollywood of me.
Yeah,
There,
North
it's
Ridge.
Close
Also,
enough.
Did you say morbidness?
I did say morbidness.
Is morbidness a word?
It is now. So, for those of you who have not heard our show before, here's how it works. We do draw these prompts every round, and we get these prompts, and we have to figure out what movie we're going to watch based on those. And then we force each other to watch them, and then we come back and we talk about them. And it's a great way to discuss classic horror movies, discover hidden gems. So far, we've all had our boundaries tested. We've barely started doing these shows. So it's a lot of fun. We have a great time doing them. We hope that you do as well. So on this show, before we get into it, I've got to bring up something that just came to our attention. And that is our lovely RyanRossLIVE might have the opportunity at something very special. Ryan, would you like to tell the listening audience what's going on?
I feel bad because I got a special shout out last episode, and then we're doing it again this round. But so
Dan will live. Dan had the whole last episode was
totally
his movie.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
Well, so it turns out about a little over a decade ago, I was on The Price is Right. If you, it does exist out there. I made it to Bidding Row. I never made it on the show because
Are you assuming people don't know The Price is Right?
No, I'm assuming that like if people want to go find it, they can.
Oh, your episode of Price is Right
exists, and you can go find it on the internet. But point is, I made it to Bidders Row. I didn't make it on stage because my last opportunity to make it on, an old man did the $1 stab and bid me up by $1, blocking my opportunity to make it anywhere.
Why did you not $1 stab him with a knife?
I'm pretty sure that's a crime, Ian. I'm going to be honest with you.
It's a crime for him to $1 stab you, man.
It is. That's
How old
true.
was he? Is he still alive?
He was like, probably. I mean, he was like 50s or 60s 10 years ago. So I don't know. It's possible. He could have kicked the bucket by now. His name's Otis. If you're out there, I still curse your name. But anyway, I got an email from one of the producers of the show that apparently they're doing a special where they're bringing back contestants who specifically were outbid by $1. And they're doing a special of all potential contestants that fit that criteria. And I responded and I got an email back that I'm invited back to attend. There's no guarantee that I'll make it on, but like I at least get to go watch the taping. So that's fun and different. Kind of wild.
Well, if you do make it on, we'll discuss it on the show, even though it has absolutely jack shit to do with horror.
No relevancy at all.
It's still kind of cool, and I thought it would be a fun thing to talk about in the show. But enough about this non-horror bullshit. Let's get back to the horror stuff.
Hey man, you asked. I answered.
I did, and it's really cool. And I hope you make it on, and I hope you make lots of money. And if any of us see Otis, Dan is like the quiet killer over in the corner. Dan will take him out.
I'll take him out.
I'm worried for Otis if Dan finds him.
I'll find a cliff for Otis to trip off of.
With a little push. Yeah.
Of all the ways Dan's going to kill him, it's going to be a cliff.
We got to take him on a hike first.
Come on, Otis. Follow me up here.
All right. So last episode, we did Dan's movie, which was based on the prompt Locked. And it was Gerald's Game, which we all fairly well enjoyed. Ryan was not a fan of the ending, but I think in general, we mostly enjoyed it. Dan, and then your prompt that you picked at the end of that episode was happiness.
Happiness.
We are
right?
waiting to find out what that's going to be coming up. And Ryan, you're currently sitting on the prompt slasher.
Correct.
Oof.
To be revealed at the end of the episode.
Oh man, I am so excited to hear what you choose.
I am very curious to hear what Ryan has picked, seeing as I don't think he's ever actually watched a slasher voluntarily in his life.
I've watched a couple just because that's like the most of the like tentpole ubiquitous horror films.
What are the
I would say fit in the slasher genre. Well, I know I've seen Halloween years ago. I don't remember a majority of it. And then as I said in our intro episode, I did watch Nightmare on Elm Street this summer as I was going through. I was trying to get some old classics through. I think those, and then we watched Scream, of course. I think those might be the primary ones, though. I don't remember if I've seen Friday the 13th. I know I've seen some of it. I don't know if I've ever actually watched the whole thing. But, you know, it's like all the major stereotypical
It's going to be really fun to hear what slasher or what you pick based on slasher.
I'm excited to reveal. We'll get there
at the end of this episode, but we will get there later on in this episode. Stay tuned. In the meantime, however, this episode is my episode.
Ooh.
And I had the prompt mystery, which I revealed at the end of last episode was the movie that I picked for these boys to watch, and which you should watch right now before you continue with this show right now, actually, because we will be discussing spoilers from this movie, and spoilers of this movie will ruin this movie.
If you haven't watched it already.
Woo! This movie is Angel Heart that we are doing right now on this show. The 1987 Robert De Niro, Mickey Rourke, mystery noir, horror, voodoo thing, mishmash that is this movie. I am so excited that I got you guys to watch this movie. My history with Angel Heart, and it's a movie that I've put up on a pedestal for a long time. I watched this for the first time in 1998, 1999, I think. It would have been 98, actually, because I was in college at the time, which ages me. And I actually rented it on VHS, which ages me. And I put it in my VHS player, and I watched it as the sun went down outside of my one-bedroom apartment that I was living in by myself. And by the time the movie was over, the sun had gone down. It was dark outside. And I was so disturbed by the movie that when I pressed stop, my apartment went completely black because I hadn't had any lights on. And I had to press play and listen to the creepy Trevor Jones soundtrack as I fumbled my way to a light by the light of the credits so I could turn a light on after the final scene of this movie. And for most of my life, when people asked, what is the scariest movie you ever saw? My response is, I don't typically get scared by horror movies, but if there's a movie that scared the crap out of me and maybe had to go run for the light, it was Angel Heart.
Interesting.
Wow.
Do you remember where you rented it from? Was it Blockbuster?
Blockbuster, bro.
Okay, I mean, that was the obvious answer, but you know, there were in 98, there were still a couple. We still had like American Home Video.
It could have been Hollywood Video. I
worked at Hollywood Video. That was one of my first jobs.
That surprises me not at all.
My first job was Blockbuster. So there you go.
Oh my gosh.
My first job was Ace Hardware. So
and that says it all.
Yes, it does.
So when I got the cue for mystery, it actually took me, I think, less than a minute to go, what is the first thing that triggers in my mind as far as horror movies when I think of mystery? And of course, Angel Heart is a noir. It is a mystery. It's kind of a murderous mystery. It's a disappearance mystery. And it ends up being a mystery about a lot of things that we don't know are a mystery to begin with. And then we find out at the end in the big reveal. And it's kind of a Raymond Chandler meets Stephen King kind of story, based on a 1978 William Hjortsberg book called Falling Angel, which was originally published in pieces in Playboy magazine. But it was...
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's an odd place for that.
Right. But so I was very excited to have you guys watch this movie because I could not stop thinking about it ever since I first watched it. I think it's an awesome movie. On watching it again, I still think it's an awesome movie. You got great performances by Mickey Rourke, by Charlotte Rampling, by Robert De Niro. Lisa Bonet is in it. But I need to know now, guys, now that you have watched Angel Heart, I will say before I throw it to you guys, I got a text today. Ryan, I know you watched it today before.
I did.
Before doing the show.
I like to try and watch it fairly close to taping so it's fresh if I can.
Which I'm glad you did. I have your text right here. Let me pull it up real quick. Ryan Ross, 4:11 p.m. just finished Angel Heart. Separate text. what period, the period, fuck period.
This is true. I did text that.
So
Can
boys,
confirm.
reactions to Angel Heart. What did we think?
Ryan, go for it.
What? I feel like every Ian episode, I'm just going to end up going, what a movie. And what that means can vary, but what a movie. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on this one. I think as it sat with me throughout the day, more like, and I've like processed and thought through more of it. Like I'm appreciating angles more of it as I go. But there was a whole period of this movie where I'm watching, I'm like, when are we going to get any sort of progression of his search? Like it was kind of like this thing would lead to that thing, would lead to that thing, would lead to that thing. But we were never, it felt like we weren't getting close to the end of him actually finding anything for such a long time. And then the ending just crashes on you. And it throws all this stuff at you in the last few minutes. And you're kind of like,
to clarify,
whoa.
if anyone listeners have not seen the movie, it is essentially like a mystery. Mickey Rourke plays a gumshoe, a private eye in 1950s New York, who is told to go find someone by a very creepy Robert DeNiro. He says he's got someone who owes him something, and then Mickey Rourke has to go find this person, and he goes on this increasingly depraved discovery of all of this stuff that takes him all the way down to New Orleans. It's insane. So Ryan, the movie definitely kept you off guard for most of it, and then the ending just messed you up.
I was also just wondering, like, because the horror elements were very light throughout until they get strong at the end, but like
very strong.
I was like, well,
very, very strong.
This feels like a very odd horror movie. This doesn't feel like something I would get as a recommendation from Ian. Other than, I will shout out, can we point out the most sensible horror moment I think we've seen from any character so far? Like the very first encounter in the movie of some horror-y thing. Basically, he's walking down the street. There's this church. He's hearing the sound design in this movie is kind of wild. He's hearing this heartbeat. The door of this church is flapping. He can see in. There's two people in the entryway looking down. Very sketchy. He walks up to investigate. Opens the door. There's like blood dripping in a bowl, and a gate opens for him. And he goes, "Nah, I'm good," and leaves. And I'm like, that's the most reasonable response we've seen in any of our movies so far. But anyway, I've said enough. Dan, what did you think?
That's why he didn't die there. That's why he didn't die.
That's true. Although, a little gray area. But Dan, I want to hear your thoughts.
I had heard a lot about this movie, like meaning that that there's a lot of build up to the mystery, to the reveal, the twist ending sort of thing. And then kind of the performances that were in it. And so I didn't really know much about it, but I knew that it was kind of an important horror film to watch. And I was pleasantly surprised because, to be honest, although I know that like the 80s are considered like the golden age of horror, so to speak, typically I don't really connect with them too well, or I'll watch them once and like appreciate them. But I was very captivated by this movie. I was a little, it didn't immediately suck me in because, I was like, oh, I did not realize that it was going to be a period piece too. I thought, when I was like, oh, okay, this is an 80s movie, but we're set in the 50s. That kind of threw me off. And then the opening sequence with, Mickey Rourke and Robert DeNiro is very odd, and it's very slow paced, that it didn't immediately suck me in. But I think once he started kind of getting into the investigation, I started getting a little bit more interested by it. But I have to say that I forgot how good of an actor Mickey Rourke is. He's incredible in this movie. Like I would say, a lot of people will think of most recently like The Wrestler being such like a pivotal moment for his career, but he's like fantastic in this movie. Like I loved every moment that he was on screen. So I was just really surprised overall by this movie, and I'm still a little bit confused. So I can't wait to hear more about, like Ian, like your feedback and everything, because I feel like I need a little bit of clarification on this storyline, because there was so much, like Ryan was saying, so much thrown in at the end that I was like, okay, he's who now? He's what now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting it, but am I fully getting it? You know,
there's at least one outstanding question I have that I'm also curious to see if we can gain insight.
I'm looking forward to kind of diving more in this movie because it is a lot. This movie is very rich. It's very textured. I'm so happy to hear, Dan, that it impressed you, that you dug it, because it is an outlier for 80s horror films. It doesn't feel like an 80s horror film. And one of the reasons for that is because you got a guy directing it, Sir Alan Parker, who also directed Pink Floyd's The Wall. He directed Evita with Madonna. He's known for doing a few musical movies. Bugsy Malone, Mississippi Burning, Midnight Express, Angela's Ashes.
Wow.
Fame, the musical Fame, Birdie with Nick Cage and Matthew Modine. He's made a lot of very different movies. And this was one of his very few horror movies. And of course, as Ryan pointed out, the horror elements on it, I have kind of an ongoing philosophy or theory that horror is such a specific genre. It's such a specific style that horror can incorporate other genres into it, and horror fans will accept watching it, like in this case, a noir horror, or for the example of Bone Tomahawk, a Western horror. But if you can't put Bone Tomahawk into the Western section of a Blockbuster, for example, or in the Western section of Netflix, because Western fans will watch Bone Tomahawk and it'll get to the sections that are pure horror, and they'll be like, "What the fuck is this? I don't want to watch this." And Angel Heart is like that with noir, where the horror elements, once they come in, no one who wants to watch any kind of Raymond Chandler stuff, the Big Sleep or whatever, they don't want to watch this. They don't want to watch the ending. They don't want to watch Mickey Rourke and Lisa Bonet on a bed where the rain turns to blood, and they're having some sort of crazy weird voodoo sex scene.
Yeah,
that's where they would be like, "Oh, I'm out." Well, Charlotte Ramplake's heart is on the table. I'm out.
Honestly, I think that's one of the things that's been most interesting for me as we've gone on this journey too, is the fact that I always considered horror to be kind of like a singular lane. And the grand majority of horror movies that we've watched are like, horror is an element within the rest of the film, whether that is more of a drama or more of a mystery or whatever. And I think that's been a surprise for me. I've always considered horror to be very insular, and it's proving very much to not be that way.
It can be very insular. And there are some movies that are pure horror.
Yeah.
That you will only watch if you're a horror head. You know, 976 Evil is not going to be watched by someone who wants to watch a teen comedy, right? And honestly, but there are some movies that are like crossovers. They are using elements of other styles. They just happen to have horror aspects, and Angel Heart is one of those. And as you say, it's one where it's a descent into hell, literally as well as figuratively, and that's one of the brilliant aspects of the movie. So Alan Parker is kind of the mastermind of this movie. It was a book that was being tossed around for a while,
and he wrote the screenplay too, in addition to directing.
He did. Yeah, he did, and he was the one who finally kind of cracked it for the Hollywood system. They actually had a version of it that was going around. Robert Evans, who's kind of a super producer, he did Rosemary's Baby and Godfather and Chinatown, and he's a very famous producer. He originally had a version that he was shopping around with Dustin Hoffman as the Mickey Rourke character. Robert Redford was attached to it at one point. But
I would have liked to see Robert Redford. That would have been really cool, actually.
Hoffman too at that era would have been a really interesting Johnny favorite.
So talented.
Yeah, and that's when they were both really good. And originally, actually, you had Al Pacino, who was also considered for it, but that was later on with the Parker version. Parker wanted Pacino or De Niro for the Johnny favorite part. But the original version, the reason it didn't get made is because the studios all kept coming back at them with, "We want a happy ending. We want a happy ending." And everyone was like, especially the author of the book was like, "You can't have a happy ending to this. That's literally not the point. The point is that he goes to hell." And Alan Parker was the first person to kind of crack that and say, "Okay, I've got these producers, Mario Kassar, Andrew Vajna. They're the guys who created Carolco Pictures, which were famous at the time. At the time, Carolco was huge. They'd done the Rambo franchise. They did Field of Dreams, Total Recall. They ended up doing Terminator 2 later on. They were a huge studio and they had tons of power at the time. And they said, okay, yeah, we'll do it the way you want to do it with the dark ending. Who you got is the main character. And so he went and he tried to get Pacino, and they asked DeNiro, and DeNiro's like, actually, I kind of want to do Louis Cypher. I want to do that character. That sounds more fun. And so then he attached Mickey Rourke to it, and it was a done deal. So that's kind of how it got made. But another funny little tidbit. So the Louis Cypher character that De Niro plays in this, the weird kind of, the devil, essentially, which I love that even in the script they say, even your name is like a joke.
And then he goes, Mephistopheles is too clunky or whatever.
It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful. Did you know? So this is one of my favorite aspects of this movie, and I can't watch it again without seeing this. He's doing an imitation of Martin Scorsese. That's his impression of Martin Scorsese.
Wow.
And if you've ever seen Martin Scorsese be interviewed, it's hilarious to watch him in this movie.
Well, what's funny is I've never seen young Robert De Niro before this movie. This is the first time I've ever seen young Robert De Niro. And so I didn't I saw in the opening credits with the special appearance for Robert De Niro.
Oh,
it wasn't until practically the end of the movie that I realized that this was Robert De Niro as Louis Cypher. And then, but the funny thing was that I was like, wow, this is a fascinating character. Early on, he was giving me vampire vibes. I thought maybe
wait. When did you realize he was the devil before he reveals it to him at the end?
But I didn't realize he was the devil. I thought that he was the beginning of the movie, I was like, he feels like some sort of vampire-y character. There's definitely something going on with this guy. And then as the movie progressed, I actually got lulled into a false sense of security with him. But
good. That's great. It means the movie works.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is, honestly, not recognizing it was Robert De Niro, I don't know if the name Avi Kaplan means anything to either of you, but he looked like very Avi Kaplan to me in this film. Avi Kaplan is, if you guys, this is a wild pull for a horror podcast, but there's a musical group called the Pentatonics who are a cappella musicians. And Avi Kaplan was the bass singer for them. He's got the long brown hair. He's very folksy with the beard. He looks exactly like Robert De Niro in this film. And I was just, other than the really long nails and stuff, but I was like, wow, this is such an interesting aesthetic. And then I was like, holy shit, that's Robert De Niro.
It does not surprise me that in this horror podcast, Ryan has brought up the Pentatonics.
That makes sense. That's in line.
Honestly, though, if you look up a picture of Robert De Niro in this movie and then you look up Avi Kaplan, it's there, dude.
I'm 100% on board with you. I just think that it's funny, but
true.
not surprising that you brought us there right now.
I'm serious, though. He looks a lot
so
like
wait,
him.
Dan, did you get fooled by him? Did you know he was the devil, or did you go along with he's such a weird dude?
I think the moment that they cut to a close-up of his nails twisting the cane in the opening, I was like, oh yeah, it's the devil. Immediately. I was like, as soon as I saw the nails and the cane, I was
the egg is like,
yeah, I was like, he's the soul. I was like, okay, that's the devil. I get it.
I did catch the egg thing.
I thought, so I immediately was like, oh, this is the devil who has lost somebody who owes his soul, basically, and he's using a PI guy to find it. I was like, that's an interesting take on a noir movie.
Wow.
Cool idea.
I was like, that's a cool idea.
I'm impressed you nailed that so early. Because the egg thing, I was like, okay, he's trying to intimidate him with the soul comment.
My problem is that, have either you seen the TV show What We Do in the Shadows?
Yes.
I've seen a little. I've seen a little.
I recommend. It's hilarious, but I can't watch it now without seeing Nandor the Relentless.
That's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty. That's pretty,
is that God? What's that guy's name?
Fucking guy.
Well, God, shoot. I have to look.
But at any rate, so all right, so Dan picked out that it was Satan. Ryan was like, he's just a weird, creepy vampire guy.
Although I didn't get the name right. I didn't get the name until the end. When
he
put the how did we miss that?
But
that's
right
great.
In
your face.
Yeah.
But that's great. Because so does Mickey Rourke.
I
Mickey
know,
Rourke also is like, all right,
get it right
I don't like you. And it's great because he doesn't, and Mickey Rourke also doesn't like Robert De Niro in real life because of this movie. Apparently they butted heads on set.
Wow.
And still to this day, Mickey Rourke says, yeah, I don't see him. I just look right through him.
Wow.
They still don't like each other. Alan Parker
also, it's
actually.
Matt Berry is who I was
Matt Berry is the other one. He's not Nandor, but Matt Berry is fantastic in that show.
So good.
But so on the set itself, De Niro apparently didn't want to interact with Mickey Rourke because his character wouldn't, and he wanted to have that sort of aloofness from him and have that power. And Mickey Rourke, being Mickey Rourke, did not appreciate that and felt it was rude, and still holds the grudge to this day.
That doesn't feel, I don't know. Like, I don't understand actors. I don't know. Maybe this, I don't know. If
Mickey
you guys
Rourke
disagree,
is a very unique dude.
He really is,
And-
but like, I don't understand actors that get offended by another actor's method. You know, like this is the job. If an actor needs to get to a place to get to it, then you can't feel offended while on the set, while the work is being done. You know,
If one thing that I've learned about Mickey Rourke over his career is he's a very easy man to offend.
Not a good reputation to have.
I've known a few people. In fact, actually, so I also used to do a show about pro wrestling, and Mickey Rourke, around the time that he was in The Wrestler, was in pro wrestling. He was in WWE. He had a match at WrestleMania with Chris Jericho, who's one of the most famous
I did not know
wrestlers
that at all.
of all time. And Chris Jericho's also in the Terrifier series. So, but he had a match with Chris Jericho. Obviously, wrestling, kayfabe, it's preordained, it's predetermined, you know. But for some reason, Mickey Rourke got pissed off because Jericho was acting like a dick to him, which is his job. It's his job as a pro wrestler to be a heel to him, and he got pissed off about it. So, yeah, Mickey Rourke, not exactly the most reliable narrator when it comes to why people are pissing him off. But here we are watching them. He's inarguably brilliant in Angel Heart. I think you guys would agree.
I would agree. Yep.
So
I love just the kind of like the fact that he's just like an everyday Joe. Like he's got like he's got the Brooklyn accent. He's like, I got a problem with chickens. Like whatever. Like, you know, like, hey, I'm here to check things out. The ballpoint pens weren't used back then. Like, it's like,
yeah, he's
very like, oh, he's just on it.
He's not an idiot, but he's also kind of an average Joe. The scene on the beach is one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, just because it's so like weird, but also very ordinary and real. Yeah. The woman in the water is actually, she was the stand-in for the original actress. The original actress fell over and refused to get back in the water.
Oh,
and that was her stand-in. And she was, and
She's
even
great.
Alan Parker said she was a better actress
Yeah.
than the original actress. But that whole scene is just, it's so weird, but it's so real. And it's just, it felt like just a slice of life on Coney Island.
Yeah. I think that was some of my favorite. I was very impressed with the cinematography of this film, but
yeah, some of those shots were beautiful.
I think the beach, that scene in particular, was gorgeous. Just like that opening, like shocking of a shot of like then Mickey Rourke outside with the Ferris wheel in the background. I was like, oh, this is beautiful. Like it was just gorgeous to look at.
The wide after it of like you see the two of them talking, but you've just got the whole open expanse behind them. That was also very good. I agree.
Really great.
Alan Parker can definitely set up a shot. But the thing that I was impressed most by was the set dressing, was the period era that they created. The entire movie, I don't know if you guys noticed, no sets, all shot on location. 100%
cool.
on location in New York, in Louisiana.
Wow.
They used actual places. They set dressed them all. And the thing I like about the set dressing that's brilliant, if you look at the backgrounds, a lot of the stuff there, it's not stuff from the 50s. There's a little bit of that, but it's a lot of stuff from the 40s and 30s. Because if you lived in the 50s, you'd have been collecting furniture and memorabilia and pictures from the previous 2 decades, like we always do. So you've got history, and it's a brilliantly lived in looking world that they have in this movie. Like it's a really well thought out movie.
And all the
that they made
characters
here
fit in to that too. Like I feel like pretty much every average person you meet feels relatable to their setting of like all the Louisiana folks feel like they're from New Orleans. New Orleans looks like New Orleans. They all act like they're like the band leader seems like a dude who's like, look, man, I played with him 10 years ago. Leave me alone. I need to take a piss. Like whatever. Right.
He was actually a blues musician. Like that's really what he does. Like they cast real people in real roles.
And it shined through, really.
Yeah. It feels very like organic and lived in and real. But that's also, for me, what creates that sense of dirt and grime and just filthiness that you get watching this movie. It feels sweaty and a little bit grimy and gross, and just beyond even how hardcore it gets at the end, in the last like half an hour, and where it really goes dark in the last 5 minutes. Where it just, they don't really show that much, but the things that they say happened
Yeah.
You realize that the
And you get
entire
the
time.
flashes.
Yeah. So in the book, he's not the killer. In the book, Louis Cypher actually frames him. Like Louis Cypher is the one who frames him for all the murders. Whereas in the movie, they make it explicitly clear, oh no, he really killed all these people. The entire time, everyone he's been finding that's been dead, that he's been so horrified by, he killed them and then forgot, and then came, or his soul, that's living inside him, the Johnny Favorite soul that's hiding deep inside this guy, has been killing these people while he's been asleep or not knowing or forgetting. Right. And so he's actually been killing all these people.
I didn't realize that it was. I slightly interpreted it differently in terms of I didn't realize that it was the favorite soul, Johnny Favorite soul. I thought that Lucifer was possessing him through the deal to basically then have the murders done, and so that's why he didn't remember. It's like whenever he's
which is kind of
not aware.
Yeah, the suggestions is kind of like a combination of the two. So Harry Angel was the person that. So Johnny Favorite comes home from the war. He's messed up. He's got this deal with the devil that he knows the devil's going to come collect because now his face is like the monkey's paw, right? The devil gave you fame, but you lose your face. Now what are you going to do? The devil's just going to come collect your soul, but he figures a way out of it. I'm going to go to New York, conduct a voodoo ritual, and hide my soul in someone else's body. So he finds Harry Angel, cuts him open, stuffs his soul inside to hide it, and then he goes off and acts like he's a private eye and has no idea that he was Johnny Favorite and that Satan's out to get him, right? So that's the idea. But then the implication is that because Johnny Favorite's such an evil motherfucker, the entire time Satan's been twisting the knife by inducing Johnny Favorite to kill these people. And Harry Angel doesn't know until the end where Lucifer's basically like, I got 2 souls for the price of 1.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I kind of throughout the day have started to process is the fact that because Johnny tried to cheat the deal, Lucifer then uses Angel to basically murder all of the closest associates of Johnny Favorite. Right. And that's basically it's not only this frame setup of he's sending him on a wild goose chase for entertainment purposes, and also so that he can get the sick satisfaction of when he does figure it out. But then, of course, he's able to then track down all of the people who were close to him and off them too. A lot of which were then associated with Lucifer anyway already through the voodoo stuff.
It's like an anti-Agatha Christie book where you realize that Satan is actually or Lucifer is the big puppet master the entire time. He's been orchestrating all the murders through someone who's been doing the actual murders. And it's which makes it such a horrific ending. And here's the thing. It's not just that Lucifer has been inducing Harry Angel, who's someone who's innocent, but has an evil soul hidden inside of him. He hasn't just been inducing him to kill these people, which is horrific enough. He's been also murdering them in the worst ways, just disgusting ways. But then at the end, there's the added plot twist to the plot twist that you find out that's his daughter. Lisa Bonet is his daughter.
Yeah.
So not only has he induced him to have sex with his own daughter, but then he finds out that the child that his daughter has already had that's hanging out with her, at the very last shot, the implication is that during a voodoo ritual that his daughter was involved with, she was impregnated by Satan. And the child is Satan's child.
Oh, I didn't even understand that.
And that's why the kid that's why the kid has the eyes. So you're fucked left, right, and center, pal.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. Satan's sitting there going, I banged your daughter and I gave her a child and now she's gotten it. Now the only thing left of you is part me. It's so absolutely relentlessly dark.
I'm gonna spoil another movie, kind of, and just because I really want to talk about this.
Should I take my headphones off?
Wow.
I don't know. Can I relate this? Can I?
Tell me the movie. Tell me the movie.
Old Boy.
Ooh.
I'll take my headphones off if you two want to discuss.
All right.
To be fair, I'm gonna listen to the episode later though. So
that's true.
I don't know if we'll get to it. I don't know if we'll watch it. I mean, it would fall in the horror category.
We'll do this. I will take off my headphones, and when I listen to this episode, we will have a in and out.
There we
point.
Go.
Okay.
So
we're gonna protect Ryan's virgin ears. Get those headphones off. Get those.
Okay.
We'll wave when it's safe.
Okay,
We'll
My
wave when it's safe.
headphones
Okay.
are off.
Ryan's-
Just tell me when to put them back on.
Ryan can't hear right now. Okay, Ryan can't hear because we don't
All right.
want to spoil that Old Boy. And if anybody has not seen Old Boy, please just
Go
fast
watch,
forward.
and not the Spike Lee version, just to put it out
don't
there.
touch that one. No, please. That shouldn't have been made. But
Park Chan-wook version.
Yes. So please don't. So let's just minimize this to 2 minutes. But in that movie, the big twist, of course, is that he has had a relationship and has had sex with his daughter. And this has come out after
He's been tricked
Angel.
into it.
He's been tricked into it. That came out after Angel Heart, correct?
Way after, yeah.
So is that would you say that was there an influence of this book and this movie on that? Would you say? I don't know. Like as soon as that was revealed, I immediately was like, Old Boy. It just felt like, oh my God, oh boy. Like that was the one.
What's the worst thing that you could do to somebody? And it certainly feels very similar, especially in the sense where in that movie, the antagonist is kind of like a puppet master satanic figure, but not necessarily, in like the Judeo-Christian kinds of Satan, but he's definitely like a nemesis kind of status. So, you know what? That'd be a great question to ask Park Chan-wook sometime is, have you ever seen Angel Heart? Was that an influence on Old Boy? Because it is a very similar kind of situation.
Did you feel that way when you saw it? Like seeing both of those? No, not at all?
This is the first time I've ever put the two together.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I don't immediately see someone banging his daughter and go,
no. I mean, that's just like those are the two movies where those things have happened and they were horrific to
might be coincidental, but
okay.
But we'll let Ryan come. We'll let Ryan come back now. It's safe.
Turn him back on.
All right, we're back.
All right, we're back. We're done talking about horrible, naughty things that should never happen to anybody, but happen in horror movies like Angel Heart. All right.
For anybody, we'll have to put in a jump back in warning around 40 minutes of like, hey, if you want to skip the Old Boy spoilers, come back in around 40 minutes.
So one thing I want to talk about this movie was some of the controversy that happened when it first came out. And initially it was unable to be released because the MPAA rated it X because of that sex scene.
Oh, wow.
And that's one of two major controversies. The second controversy being that Lisa Bonet at the time was on The Cosby Show, which at the time was like the most wholesome show you could watch. The Cosby, I mean, obviously hindsight being 2020, we have a different view of Bill Cosby now, but at the time he was America's dad. You always sat down on a Thursday night, put on The Cosby Show and watched some nice, wholesome family show. And Lisa Bonet was the wholesome older daughter of the family. And with Bill Cosby's blessing, she went and did Angel Heart as a way to further her career. But then after the movie came out, Bill Cosby shat all over the movie and was like, yeah, you really, it's just, they took advantage of her. It's just a black girl doing voodoo and having sex. And it really was kind of lame. And I wasn't a fan of her doing that. So what did you guys think of Lisa Bonet in the movie? 1, and 2, was it really that graphic? Because we watched the unedited version. They added 10 seconds back in.
Oh, interesting. Well, I'm happy to. Yeah. Okay,
Go
cool.
ahead.
Honestly, I did feel like although we're talking a period piece here, so there is some accuracy here. There's definitely some racist undertones that haven't aged well. And overtones. I wouldn't even say undertones.
Really quickly going to jump in on that because that was a topic I wanted to bring up later, but I'll just elucidate so you can speak to it now. Do you think that was them mimicking what was actually going on in the 50s, or do you feel like that was actually something that was still latent in the 80s that they were still dealing with?
I think both, honestly. There's definitely elements of they're playing off of, on the bus, you've got there's a colored section on the bus. There's definitely elements that are time period accurate for what that would be. But I also feel like they don't do a great job of differentiating that in the film itself at all, to kind of the point of really her purpose in the movie is she's a voodoo priestess. She does really dark rituals. She's in a sex scene. And then you find out that it's the daughter and it's this dark, horrible twist. And there's not a lot of humanizing or differentiating moments with her as a character in the film that I do feel like it was kind of shallow in that sense. And I don't think they do a great job of really representing any sort of positive representation outside of just like jazz musicians, which isn't really, that's a really, really low bar. And doesn't really do anything for the sort of representation. We're talking about a period piece that's also been made at this point 40, almost 50 years ago. So there is something to be said there, but that was definitely something that I've noticed that did not age well at all, which is really unfortunate, I thought.
Yeah, so you kind of back up Bill Cosby's idea, like you had this great actress and you were like, she's black, she's naked, she's going to do some voodoo, she dies.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that coming from like the perspective of if you're on like what's essentially like a family friendly national show, I don't think that it's unusual for people to overcorrect that way of being like, oh, this is different and this will show a different side of my acting capabilities or whatever. But no, I don't think it did. I think, sure, it might have made her more adult in the sense of like showing a different side of what she's willing to do for the camera, but I don't think it did any sort of character favors for her. No.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's funny because, you know, having come up in that generation, I can tell you that's one of the gnarlier sex scenes of the era. And
Yeah.
it's certainly like Dan, maybe you can speak to this too. But I at the time, that was one of the most like graphic sex scenes of the era. And it was also both of their first sex scene. Mickey Rourke had never shot a sex scene before. Neither had Lisa Bonet. And she said, yeah, it was just 3 hours of me, Mickey, and Alan Parker and just lots of sex. She's we got comfortable at the end.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I hadn't seen it when it first came out, or this is my first time watching it. I thought it was a bit over the top. But going back to, you know, kind of Ryan's point, I'm not sure. For some reason, I took her character as being mysterious and being powerful in the role. I don't know why I saw it that way. And you know, listening to you guys talk about it, I definitely see the side of like her being, you know, kind of used stereotypically as like, oh, okay, she's a popular African-American actress, but you know, we're kind of using her in this like stereotypical role. But to me, it just felt like throughout the movie that the power of the devil meets with the voodoo felt so, you know, kind of scary and powerful in it, that because she harnessed that power, she seemed like something to be feared and something that should be, you know, like given respect in. And that's where I saw it from her. And then that's what I got from her character. So I kind of feel like I don't know, maybe I was seeing a different side that wasn't there.
I can totally see that too. And I think that two things can be true, right? Because I think that like the voodoo angle, I agree. I think that she came across really powerful. They like really made her feel like a lot of her community really respected her and that she had like kind of a powerful role amongst them. I very much agree with you there. I just think that then to have established that, and then basically have it be like, and then she goes, has sex, and then she's in the bathtub, and then she's dead. Like I feel like, to your point, like there is an element of that they don't really utilize outside of establishment. They don't build upon it anywhere, I feel like.
And sadly, I think I agree, but I also think that it is another in a long line of kind of exoticism of African Americans, of black people, and voodoo in general. Like you've got a huge history of zombie films where with voodoo, because before they were the undead, they were victims of voodoo magic, zombies. And that was what they were for 50 years, all the way from White Zombie until Night of the Living Dead happened. If you were a zombie, it was because of voodoo magic. And that was because of black people. And that was a major, one of the things about zombie films that Romero was drawing on was the fact that traditionally zombie films were about fears that the white person had of black people, of black culture. And so having that be essentially the same thing in this movie, it felt reductive and it felt regressive to have voodoo being used as essentially almost like a dog whistle concept. Well, they're doing voodoo. You know what that means.
It was a spectacle.
You know what I mean? It was a spectacle, and it was done to try to do some sort of shorthand that I felt really reduced her character. And if you think about her character, she doesn't have any real agency. She doesn't really do anything. She does her own thing until he comes into her life, and then she's drawn into his orbit and does whatever he wants. Even in the sex scene, he's in control the entire time. He's the one with his hand on her throat. And afterwards, even though like it turns into a very ugly scene, and it done in a very kind of mystical way where the walls, go from raining everywhere to bleeding everywhere. And it's just a crazy scene. The next scene, she's in the bathtub, completely placid, having had no reaction to the violence of the previous scene. She's not an active character. And I think that I agree with Ryan. It's one of the big flaws of the movie is that as kind of the ultimate representation of Black characters in this movie and Black culture, she has no agency. She has no purpose other than her ethnicity and the kind of impression,
and being a plot device,
the plot device and the projection of her culture that this movie is making. And so in that way, I do think the movie is reductive, and it's my biggest beef with the movie.
I mean, wow. Okay. Interesting. Cause I didn't even see it that way, but that's why I love chatting with you guys, because
that's why we're here to talk about it.
And honestly, like it's a rough topic of the film, I think too.
It is.
It's a tough one to discuss because
it's a rough movie. It's a rough movie that talks about a lot of rough things, and it goes to some very dark places. And I think
like
that
we're coming at it from a very modern perspective. Also, we're all
100%. And I think it was trying to be progressive in its own way, in its time. It was trying to be. It just wasn't.
Yeah, and also, I mean, we're none of us are particularly of color, and so we have to be careful in terms of like how we kind of approach these type of things. But it's definitely it's a rough point of the movie, I'd say.
It is. It's something that has not aged well, but I can definitely tell that the movie wanted to be more fair-handed. It just might not have known how. It might not have had the language to do so. And it's one reason why I think it's entertaining and interesting and educational to go back and watch movies that are dealing with topics like these across the decades and across the eras and see ones that do it better than others. I Walked with a Zombie is another example of a movie that tried to deal with similar topics and didn't do it as well, but did the best that it could at the time, arguably. So yeah, this movie is interesting for a lot of reasons, and certainly still captured kind of in its time. It's of its time period, and it's trying to be a much earlier time period. It might be pulled down a little bit by that, but I still think that it's well worth watching, and I am glad that I made you guys watch it.
One outstanding question I have.
Yeah, what's up?
Because so we've kind of covered like the victims, how they tie in. Obviously Johnny Favorite, kind of the ritual. We've got these flashbacks. We've got a lot of those hints. But the one thing, well, actually, technically the two things that really kind of stand out to me is that Angel throughout the movie has some of these dreams, some of these visions that kind of foreshadow what's going to happen in very vague and kind of like disconnected and disjointed ways sometimes. But I don't really understand the hooded Black woman who ends up being, I guess, Johnny Favorite at the end that's outside his hotel room, A. And B, why do the thugs chase him in the one church when he's like about to go reach for this person's shoulder? Those are the two scenes that like I have yet to kind of connect to anything. Of about a third, halfway through the movie, like there's the whole scene where they meet Louis Cypher and the assistant, who kind of sometimes like I guess he just dies at the end, like he just kind of off screen.
They shot a scene where he's decapitated by a rotating fan, and they just didn't include it.
Oh, well, that makes sense with the whole why they kept having the fan
imagery. Yeah, the breathing of the soul, the in and out, the fan turning in and out. But he had a death scene that they shot. They cut it. They cut a couple things out of this. Interestingly enough, they cut a couple of darker stuff. They had in the Toot Sweet death scene, they actually had Teloka, Teloca, which is from the Book of Enoch. It means damned, and that was written in the wall in blood. They cut that. The secretary girlfriend that gives him the tip when he's in New York, they had a scene where he killed her. So they had a few things. They had a few things that they cut out of the movie that would have made it even darker. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
honestly, the fan thing being kind of like a almost like a dog whistle for when the soul changes. That's a cool angle. I kept wondering what that was. That's a cool thing that I never even realized. But yeah, there's the whole church thing with like the guy who's being held up as kind of like a messiah and he's literally talking about being a con artist.
But he's had that's the implication, is that in the church he has made a deal with Louis Cypher, who's as we realize at the end when he passes the hooded figure, Louis Cypher's been the hooded. That was DeNiro without the beard.
Oh,
in
it's
the
DeNiro.
Yeah.
Okay, so that answers a little
And
bit then.
so they were defending. They were like, "You can't, dude. You're not supposed to know that's Louis Cypher. Get out of here." Right? He's reaching for the figure. That's my
Got
impression.
it.
And then
So
that
those are
guy
just
was
goons of Lucifer's.
well, right. Well, they're goons of the guy from the church who's made a deal for power, right?
Got
And
it.
he's obviously banging his constituents and causing some of them to have to commit suicide because he's banging their wife.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a whole bunch of
And
these
also
little
collecting all their
complicated
money.
subplots. Exactly right, which is a bit of a knock against organized religion as well. So it's there's a lot of other things going on in this movie.
A lot of things going on.
Yeah. So now that you guys have watched this movie, and at this point, I will quote a line from the movie: "How terrible is wisdom when it brings no profit to the wise." What profit did you guys get from this movie? What Scully rating would you guys give to Angel Heart? Or actually, before we do the Scullys, we gotta do our tradition. Let's figure out why some people died for dumb reasons. Why did people die? This is why, Dan, I think this is your turn to go first.
Oh man,
Who died in this movie for a dumbass reason, and why did they die? And then we'll do the Scullys and figure out what we rated Angel Heart.
For a dumbass reason.
Ryan, if you've got one, you can go ahead as well.
Yeah, Ryan, you gotta because I gotta think about it because I forgot.
I think the most obvious one for me, right, is that they talk about how the tarot card reading, like a witch woman whose name, like
Charlotte Rampling.
Charlie Rambley. I don't remember what her character's name is. It's like a.
Did you call her Charlie Rambley?
No, you said Charlotte. You said Charlotte. Didn't you say Charlotte? I said Charlotte.
Yes, you said
Okay,
Charlie
well, that's
Rampling.
what I. Oh well, her name in her character's name is like as a Susan as a Mecky whatever. I don't remember what her name is in the movie. Point is, she is implied to have like been a part of the ritual. Like she introduces Johnny Favorite to all of the witchy tarot card devil worshipping stuff because she was introduced to it by her father, and somehow doesn't realize or does and just ignores it that like the guy standing in front of her is the person who's the victim from this ritual, and then ends up dying because she doesn't make that connection, which I feel like that was kind of a large hole.
I think she realized fairly quickly that this was not that's why she kicked him out so quick. And also, if you speak French, that's why she told her maid, when her maid said, "Shall I get the nice cups?" She goes, "Don't get the nice cups."
Oh, interesting. But I mean,
so she knew.
It just seems odd that she wouldn't relocate or something. If like
get the fuck out.
If you're making
if you
that
think
connection,
Johnny Favorite's coming around, get the fuck out of town.
Yeah, well, especially considering like apparently you know his whole history. You were there for the thing. Like you would think that he'd be like, oh, cards are falling in place that I should not be where I am, and she stayed right where she was, almost exactly. So I would say that was the obvious one for me.
She didn't get far.
She died because she literally just didn't leave.
I mean, her house was really nice.
She did.
That's not a reason.
I'd have a hard time leaving that place too.
If you're gonna, you're saying that a house would be enough to keep you there from the possessed victim of your ex-boyfriend that you put in someone else's body.
I'm just saying it would be a consideration. It might slow me down.
Oh my god.
I might lose a step and then Satan catches up with me. I'm just saying it would make me think twice.
Gotta pack up all your things first.
Material. Yeah, she's got a lot of stuff. Material possessions. All right, Dan, you've had a second to think. What?
I'm having trouble thinking.
Are you still struggling?
I'm still struggling on who, because honestly, it was like anybody that met the devil just kind of died.
I mean, that's a reason though, isn't it?
So like, why do you meet the devil? Why did you meet the devil? Why did you go meet the devil?
Or like,
don't mess with the devil.
How about let's be silly and be like that poor chicken. He shouldn't have. He shouldn't have said yes to going to the voodoo party that night. That's why he died. Got the blood spilled all over.
The chicken was on the wrong farm.
Yeah, don't go, chicken. Don't go to the voodoo party. You're not gonna make it.
Hey, chicken, you're in the wrong hen house, pal. Yeah, for me, it was the dad, Charlotte Rampling's dad, the rich guy who was at the horse race.
Oh,
man,
yeah.
Had the big pot of gumbo.
He got death by gumbo. Death by gumbo. Bro, stay away from the gumbo vat.
That's true. The gumbo vat.
That's the gumbo vat. when Mickey Rourke comes to town and starts stabbing a big thing of ice with an ice pick, don't become Dr. Exposition and tell him everything that happened. Hey, so let me give you all of the details of this crazy shit my daughter was into 5 feet from a gigantic boiling gumbo vat while you stab violently at this piece of ice. No, get the fuck out of there. Run.
Or honestly, just have a smaller gumbo pot. Like what?
It was very
a
big.
gumbo pot.
Man, it's Louisiana. And you're a rich guy.
I'm
You've
just
got
saying,
you got to feed a lot of people with the gumbo.
Like,
I'm not gonna say no gumbo.
Fried green tomatoes was pretty accurate on the size of gumbo pots, and this was like, this was like Who Framed Roger Rabbit like size pot.
It was also a very watery gumbo. It was not a very thick gumbo.
He's a cartoon shoe that Judge Doom
pretty much
dipped into the gumbo?
Yeah, he threw. Yeah, I mean, when he pulled him out of that vat of gumbo, he was
bright red.
Yeah,
he was toasty.
Yeah, there's not. It's not a sausage that you're eating there, buddy. He looked like a
freshly cooked prawn. Freshly cooked prawn. All right, so Scully Award time, boys. Let's see. What did we think of Angel Heart? I'm gonna go first. It was my movie. I love Angel Heart. I give it a straight up 9 Scullys. It's one of my big ones.
Perfect. What knocks it down from being perfect for you?
There's just a couple of little things that obviously the way that the race issue has not aged well is just something that I can't really brook with, and it wasn't 100% great for its time. It's definitely not good now. I feel like it's still a little bit disjointed in a lot of ways, and I also feel it's very subtle. It's a nitpick, but the story is, once you get to the end, it's a little bit cheesy. Just be like, oh, Louis Cypher, the devil, got me on this. It's cute, but it's also a little cheesy. I buy into it so much because the movie is so richly well done with acting, with cinematography, with set design. The Trevor Jones score. Can we shout out Trevor Jones real quick? One of the greatest writers of movie soundtracks to have never gotten an Oscar. Time Bandits, From Hell, The Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, Mississippi Burning, Excalibur, Last of the Mohicans, Arachnophobia, Cliffhanger, Dark City. Dark City. Wow. One of my favorites.
This
guy is an animal. Animal.
Yeah, Ryan, Dark City. Without Dark City, no Matrix.
Oh, fully.
Yeah.
Fully. Dark City, massively underrated movie. Yep. We'll get to that another time. Yeah, so there's so much going right with Angel Heart. I can overlook its flaws. Absolutely 9 Scullys from me. Boys, what do you think? Scully Awards. Dan, where are you at, Scullys?
You know what? I would I'd probably go a little bit lower usually. Like I was feeling more of a 6, but I'm going to go leaning towards a 7, and here's why. I think that without Angel Heart, you don't get movies that lead up to a 7. You don't get like the movie 7. You also don't get, and it's funny that you like say that that DeNiro was playing Scorsese, because I feel like you don't get what's that mystery noir movie that he did with DiCaprio, Shutter Island.
Island, yeah.
There's
Martin Scorsese's Hitchcock movie.
Exactly, but like the noir vibes, the look of it very much calls back to this movie as well too. So I feel like it is different. But any movie that came out after this that had anything to do with voodoo, that had anything to do with noir and horror blending together, I feel like this had some sort of impression on it. So I feel that's why I say that I give it respect.
Yeah, the Maltese Falcon meets Satanism.
Yeah, so I think that's why I got to give it more of a 7 than like the 6, because I think it did have a bigger influence that I was not aware of until after watching it.
Sweet. Honestly, and Mr. Ryan, let's go. What do you think?
It's funny because my gut had I was coming into this episode with a 6. I think Daniel makes some really solid points. I don't have that same scope of reference, so I am going to stick with my 6.
Son of a bitch.
I think that really what it comes down to for me is that like the concept is interesting. For the most part, like I think that it does check most of its boxes. There are some weird unanswered questions. Like also, is the soldier that he turns around, is that also Robert De Niro? I kept waiting to see Johnny
That's
Favorite
Heart,
somewhere.
right? That's Angel Heart.
That's
the soldier's
that's
Angel
that's-
Heart. Is Heart.
Well, that's all Johnny
Okay.
Heart, Harry Angel.
Johnny
Harry
Heart.
Angel.
Yeah. Harry
Yeah.
Angel.
Okay, so like there were like he looked like he had darker hair than Harry Angel does in the rest of the film. So I was like,
It's the implication. The implication that it's Harry Angel. Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. There's just like a couple of those things that were like kind of loose endy that felt like they weren't really answered. I didn't realize that it was Robert De Niro without the beard. I kept waiting to see.
You've never seen Baby De Niro. It's your first
That's true.
experience of
Well,
him.
Honestly, I kept wanting to see Johnny Favorite. I kept expecting his face to show up at some point outside of a picture,
Mhm.
and it never did. And that's not a knock on the movie. That's just a stylistic choice. But I do think that like it took too long to get to where it wanted to go, and then it kind of shoved it all in at the end. And like I do think that like the reveal was good, and it had a cool concept and twist at the end. There was definitely a point where there was like 20 minutes left in the movie. I was like, how the hell are they going to end? Like we've been going for an hour and 30 minutes, whatever this is. I'm like,
Yeah.
I have the same amount of questions as I did an hour ago. They're just slightly different because he's in a different place. And so
you're echoing a lot of the criticisms that the critics had at the time, which was the people that were down on the movie, which was that you essentially answer the movie with an exposition dump from one dude, in a gumbo hut in 5 minutes.
And then you go talk to Lucifer and he does it again.
Yeah, exactly. So you have two massive exposition dumps at the later part of this movie, which is, it is very similar to a lot of noir and mystery films where you kind of have Poirot explain everything to everyone at the end. Well, this is how he did it all.
Generally, to make those feel satisfying, you have the pieces you can catch beforehand. And by the nature of the like what they were trying to deliver with this movie, they don't really like they have hints, but there's really no way for you to put together the specifics of the thing.
His name is Louis Cypher. What do you want?
I'm talking specifically about like the level of like, and then he was possessed, and then he's in your body, and all like there's no reasonable way that you're going to put all of those pieces together by the end.
I just want to mention too that I think that this is one of those movies, and maybe Ian or Ryan, you can come up with another example, but the title gives away the ending as well. Like
a little bit, yeah.
I mean,
although I do kind of prefer the book title. I feel like Falling Angel seems to be more accurate, I think, than Angel Heart, personally.
Yeah, it's just that in the ritual, they're removing the heart of like the soul that they're like. So it just felt like, oh, the title is explaining exactly what happened to this guy at the beginning. Like you're going into this movie where the title's giving you the answer and you don't figure that out until the very end, which I thought it was, was smart, was interesting.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you guys for watching this movie. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you kind of liked it. You didn't hate it. It was interesting. We had a great discussion about it. But now that movie has been used up. It's gone. It is no more. That means that I am without a prompt. I'm without a movie. That means I need to draw a new one and join you guys in the ranks of the prompted. I'm going to reach into my little Scully thing now and draw.
And just a reminder, I have Happiness out right now. Happiness is a prompt.
Happiness and I have Slasher that I'm about to cash in.
Ooh.
Oh, I have drawn mine.
And yours is?
My next one is Transformation.
Oh my gosh, that's fun. That's fun. That's good.
I'm gonna have fun with that.
He's gonna watch I know it's the most horrifying movie. Transformers 6.
We might have to really open up Mr. Ryan's eyes. But that being said, we will wait on that to disclose what that will be. In the meantime, Ryan, it is your turn to tell us what your next movie that we will watch will be. What have you chosen for the prompt? Slasher.
Slasher.
So obviously Slasher is a fairly ubiquitous category for the horror genre. I had a lot of options, and I will admit I was really tempted to go Michael Myers here and go with the Halloween franchise because I feel like personally, if there is a quintessential slasher like killer, I feel like Michael Myers is that guy.
Yeah.
But
Truth.
While I was on the kind of iconic slasher tropes, the first thing that came to my mind is that soundbite. So we're gonna be watching Psycho.
Wow. Okay.
Oh.
All right.
Okay.
Interesting.
Whoa. Wait,
Because
which one?
honestly, the
Hitchcock?
Psycho, the original Psycho.
Okay.
Because honestly, I feel like if you say the word slasher, that sound effect is what plays in your brain. That is the slasher sound. That is the stereotypical slasher thing. Obviously, slashers are men with knives, and that is probably the most like instant line of man with knife that you could possibly get from point A to point B. That's how I got to Psycho.
That's if you believe that mom didn't kill Janet Leigh in the shower.
I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my. Okay.
Did we already spoil it? Is that the thing?
No, I didn't say anything.
No,
you heard nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a real fun
I've seen,
episode. Well, this is going to be a fantastic show. I can't wait to discuss
Psycho,
slasher, and why Psycho might be one of the first ones.
The shock
might
on
not even be
both
a slasher.
of your faces.
It's gonna be phenomenal. So all y'all, please come back and check out that episode when we drop it in a couple of weeks. This has been a very fun show. Thank you for joining us for this episode where we discussed Angel Heart. So coming up on the next episode, make sure to check out Ryan's pick for Psycho. But for right now, we're gonna take off. I'm Syrian Dangerous. For Ryan Ross Live, for Daniel Marcha Madness, thank you for joining us right here on
This is why you die.